Mr. President.
The senator from Indiana.
Mr. President, I ask that the call of the quorum be initiated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, right now there's an issue on the mind of every Hoosier, and I think most Americans, not every American, and that issue is the high price of gas. Over the past few months, gas prices have risen higher and higher each week. Currently, across the nation, I believe the average is somewhere close to $4, maybe $3.91 or 93 cents. In Indiana, it's even higher. It's close to $4, and in many parts of our state, well over $4 per gallon. That obviously has a significant economic impact on our country. It causes budgets to get tighter, planned vacations to either be canceled or shortened. Families, farmers, businesses across the state of Indiana are having to rethink their budgets for the year and make tough financial decisions for themselves. And this is all at a time when unemployment continues to remain high. Americans are struggling to make ends meet. Rising gas and energy costs only further weaken an already struggling economy. Now, it is true that supply and demand of gasoline and oil prices clearly are subject to global considerations. There are concerns that the supply is not meeting the demand. That triggers some clear increase in prices of crude oil. There is also the concern that conflict in the Middle East could potentially shut down lanes of commerce, bringing oil out of the Middle East to the rest of the world. There's speculation on the part of some of that. So we need to acknowledge that there are these spikes. But this is a trend that's been going up and up and up. We've seen gas prices more than double in the last 3 years, and clearly now $3.50, $3.75 is not something that looks like it's a spike. It looks like it's the average that we hope we could fall back to. And that certainly has real serious economic implications for this country. Now, there is some good news here. The good news is that Americans are increasingly understanding and learning that we can be a major player in producing energy. We're discovering abundant amounts of energy in this country that we didn't think that we had. And a lot of that is right here in our backyard. That's the good news. Now, the bad news is that we have had an administration that for 3 years has been promoting policies that work against the goal of our achieving more energy independence. And that's the problem with the bill that we are currently discussing, because that bill raises gasoline prices by raising taxes on oil production. Why in the world would we want to raise prices on gasoline at a time when America's economy is struggling to come out of recession and we're working hard to get people back to work, and at a time when gasoline prices are rising through the supply and demand issues that we've had? Why in the world would we want to do anything that would further increase the cost of gas at the pump? The current tax code provides for a number of targeted tax incentives for the energy sector. It's important to note that the vast majority of those subsidies go to the so-called new wave of energy production, the renewables. And only a very small minority of those subsidies and credits go to producing the oil and the gas that we need that drive this economy. So that eliminating only those benefits that go to the production of the needed oil and gas that benefits our economy, at the same time extending the subsidies and credits and support for the renewables, is not the direction that we need to go. So it's not about producing more energy, it's about targeting just one sector of our energy industry, that is oil, a fossil fuel energy source that is absolutely essential to driving our economy. If we want to eliminate oil and gas subsidies, we ought to put all subsidies for energy on the table. Senator Wyden and I have co-authored a bill for comprehensive tax reform, and in that bill, we look at the idea that has been proposed and suggested not only by the Bowles-Simpson Commission, but by others that have looked at this, and basically saying, let's get on a level playing field. And we're willing to make adjustments even within our own bill, if necessary, to achieve that, so that we can lower tax rates on American companies and on the American people by getting us more to a level playing field. Now, we've all heard the President talk about we're doing all the above, or we need to do all the above in terms of energy approach, unlocking American resources. And he says, put us back in the driver's seat of energy production. But the reality is that the administration's policies over the last 3 years have been directed at only subsidizing a certain portion of the all of above. And some of it, and what it has left for the essential production that we need to provide oil resources and make us less dependent on foreign oil, those are the areas where they have not been supportive. Let me just give you a couple of examples. President Obama has reduced the number of new offshore leases by half over the next 5 years. And in terms of current exploration and production, 97% of offshore areas are out of bounds, can't drill, can't explore. Most recently, the President rejected the Keystone XL pipeline, a privately, not publicly, privately funded project that would create 20,000 jobs and deliver more than 800,000 barrels of oil per day from Canada. And then just last week, the President shows up and says, we're going to improve the pipeline from Oklahoma down to Louisiana, but rejected doing anything to bring the pipeline from the source of the oil down to the point in Oklahoma where it would continue on. And that's essentially like saying we have goods that we need to move. They're essential. They're essential to the running of this country and the economy. And we need to ship those from Chicago to New Orleans. But we're only going to build the road from Little Rock to New Orleans. And we won't have any other way of transporting it to get it to that particular point in time, so it makes no sense whatsoever. You can't have it both ways. You can't tell the American people you support an all of the above energy plan and then undercut attempts to produce domestic energy sources. You can't say that you want to reduce America's dependence on foreign oil and then block major parts of the Keystone Pipeline. Or tell political leaders in Brazil that you want the U.S. to be one of your best customers. You can't tell Americans you are focused on job creation and then impose one unrealistic regulation after another that will increase energy costs, jeopardize jobs, and shut down plants across the country. But that's exactly what this administration is doing. The Obama Energy Plan is to pay lip service to American energy production at the same time while enacting policies that limit our ability to tap into domestic resources. Our country faces an energy crisis. We have high unemployment. We have troops putting themselves on the front line to protect oil in the Middle East. But we can change that. We can unlock American energy resources. We can put Americans back to work in doing so. We can protect our troops and reduce our dependence on Middle East oil. We have the ability. We have the innovation. And we have now, we know, the resources to lead the world in energy production. It's time for the President to support American energy production. That's the real all-the-above energy plan. Mr. President, I yield the floor and notice the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.